Good evening. Welcome to the FC Transfer Room. You are with Dan, Stu, and Colin. Thank you very much for joining us. If you're joining us on Twitter, or X as it's now known, if you're joining us on YouTube, thank you very much. Put a comment in the chat. Come and say hello. Get your questions in. Get your comments in. Get your thoughts on today's subjects as you've already read. As you can see from the title, we'll be discussing Arne Slot is officially here. Big surprise. Who saw that one coming? Not heard a lot from them quite yet, so we'll go into maybe as to why we've not heard anything yet. Maybe no one told him he has to work weekends, and that could be quite the news story. Then we're going to be going on and talking about a little bit more about Bryan Mbeumo. It was mentioned last night and talked about last night, and I just felt like we just wanted to just go into a bit more, and I wanted to discuss him kind of from my point of view, because for me, I'm quite confident. I think he's quite a good signing if he was someone that we would be bringing. He's very much in the realm of a Sadio Mane, in my opinion. He's a selfless sort of player who's, been the sidekick to someone like Ivan Toney. So I'm quietly quite impressed if that is something we're going to be linked with. And then finally talking about Sepp Berg, who has gone and done an exclusive interview with the Telegraph. That's my best Dutch. The Dutch for Telegraph, would you believe? And he's done an exclusive interview with them in which he's basically said he's being held prisoner almost, and he wants the club to release him, and the price tag that they've given him of 20 million euros asking price is too high. So yeah, we're going to be discussing that. Get your comments in, get your chat in there. I want to hear what you got to say. Thank you everyone who's already involved. That's brilliant. Right, quick introductions. Stu, how are you? How are you under the new Arne Slot regime as we have in now? How are you feeling? Are you excited? Are you looking forward to hearing the first words from the big man himself?
No, man, I'm pissed. We haven't got a signing in yet. What's he doing?
What are we playing at? What are we playing at? The club's
geez. No, the other day's first day on the job, but working weeks don't start until the Monday, so it's a bit of a non-entity, really, isn't it? He's in. No press conference, no interviews or anything like that as yet, and I don't expect it to be until tomorrow, maybe Tuesday, possibly. So. Yeah, it's not really anything to get too excited about until I've actually listened to the interview for what he actually has to say.
Yeah, definitely. And I'm almost disappointed because all week I've been setting myself up, hopefully, to be able to discuss his interview. And unfortunately, Arne has been really selfish and decided he was having a weekend off and not going and giving me an interview to be able to create content. So appreciate that. Good start from the big man himself. Colin, tell me why I shouldn't be upset at Arne Slot for not giving me an interview yet.
Well, clearly he's just, he's just gone to the Champions League final and bopped around London and done everything else on his holiday off. It's very funny to me that this has become like a thing that we overall like, especially like on Twitter, have like that a lot of people on there have been like talking about like this. It's okay, like it just is. It was a Saturday. It's the first day of his official contract. Like it's okay. I'm sure that he was doing something. Let's not freak out. Although I do want to know how long would it have to be until we got the first interview? That like at what point would you guys be worried?
How long would it be before it got weird? Like, does he exist?
Exactly.
Go on. Stu, you answer that one first for me. How long would it be before it was a bit strange?
Well, until it gets a bit weird that we haven't had an interview.
Yeah, like you think,
geez.
Is he real? That's the question.
To be honest, you know what? Actually, I'd find it very, very strange if we didn't have an interview within 3 days, 72 hours. I think I'd be anything longer than that. It'd be like a little bit.
What's going on?
What's going on?
Yeah.
So yeah, I'd say 3 days tops.
Yeah, I mean, for me, my question is, for me, I'd be really concerned if it was anything later than tomorrow, because they know how desperate we all are. We're all sitting here like, please, we're living in the age of like, we need to know today, tomorrow. We need to know before things have happened, and especially within the football X sphere out there that it is. So I'm expecting that they've probably been doing the photos around the ground and doing all that kind of jazz, ready for the interviews and whatnot. And then they'll release it sort of around lunchtime tomorrow. That would fit with what I think would happen. I'm probably linked to the fact that yesterday there was a competition final on that kind of happened in the Champions League final, which kind of left things to be a little bit busy. So yeah, I think that's kind of where it is. There's a good question actually that's come in here about which is a good one, and I'll ask this out because this is something we've had in our chat. Dan, what's the first question would you ask Arne? I'll actually throw this out to Colin first before I give my answer. What would the first question you ask if you had the opportunity in the interview?
Well, so obviously it would come right after, how are we? and then after that, After that, I think I would ask him, why is he the right person for the job? Like, why does he believe that he's the right person to lead the club? I think that's obviously the most important question, but I think also how people speak about themselves can say a lot about them. And I think it would be very telling. So yeah, a good place to begin.
No, that's a good one. Same question to everyone in the chat. I want to hear what your questions would be. And you too, Paul. I want to know what your first question would be, to be honest, because you're not getting out of this if you're asking difficult questions. Stuart, difficult question for you. What would your first questions be? And would it not be, where's the Taylor Swift money gone?
Maybe. I would actually say what makes his style different, playing style different to what we are used to or what we've seen with Klopp. What can we expect that's going to be different?
That is it's difficult, isn't it? Because my first question, and it's kind of a really not a mundane one, but probably something everyone's on everyone's lips. My first question would be is, what system are we going to play? I'd really like to know. There's so much sort of, because he is a 4-2-3-1 manager who also does play a 4-3-3. There's so many questions about our team going forward with the players that we have available to us now. And we've had in our chat and in our conversations multiple times as to where certain players would go and how would they fit within his system. And once we know what that system is, and he says, "Oh, we're going to play 4-2-3-1," and he's probably never going to answer the question as simply as that. It would help me if he did. That would then help us to sit there and go, right, this is how we see the sort of the team going, and that's probably what makes him so exciting, is that we are going to play a similar brand of football on the sort of the ethics of the game and the way that things are, on the front foot, attacking, pressing to win the ball back, but there is a number of differences that I think that we need. I think we're going to be a lot more in control of games. I don't think we will create as many chances. However, the chances that we do create, I would hope, will be of a higher quality. And that would then lead us to having more time with the ball when it's important, rather than kind of just spending 60, 70 minutes of a football match like bombing forward. And you look at the players that we have now. So I would say, what's the formation going to be? I'm going to have just a couple of the chats here, because from last time I needed to make sure I got involved as much as I can with this one. Plans for Tyler Morton? Really good question. Yeah. Is he staying? Is he going on loan? Is he going to be sold? I was very impressed with Tyler Morton when he made his debut a couple of seasons ago, and he played DM, and all I said was, he just needs to put some beef on and get himself in the gym, because I was really impressed with the way that he played. He just looked like a skinny kid, but he clearly had the skill and the quality. So I still think he looks like a slim lad. I still don't think he looks quite as beefed out as maybe as he needs to be. I would like to think he gets a full chance of pre-season, but that's a really good question. I'll have that one. Paul's first question, will Trent play midfield? I think we've all got that question, haven't we? I think that's a really important question for Trent, isn't it? And for all of us, is to know, Where is the guy who we've sort of been doing a halfway house with, who plays in defence but plays in midfield when we're in possession of the ball? Is he now going to, move forward completely? And if he does move forward, where's he playing? Is he playing in the 2? Is he playing in the 3? He's a player of such quality. You could imagine he could play almost anywhere, to be totally honest. And so there's a really good, interesting question about that one. And that's a really good one too. John Sommers, ask him what are your ambitions and hope for the club in the future, and can we achieve it? Yeah, and he's one thing I like about him from the interviews that I've seen him do, and he is self-assured. He's a very self-assured person. He seems to he doesn't do those wishy-washy answers when it comes to kind of like, the media sort of controlled ones. I think that if he believes that this team is capable of going on and doing big things, he's going to have to do that. Like with us, there's no sort of, we'll see how we do. This isn't a club he wants to be fighting for top 4. This is a club he wants to now be fighting for the title. And I have every belief that a man who's been there and done that with a club in another league, albeit the Eredivisie, will come here and want to do the same. So I think he'll be out there looking to do what he needs to be doing. Right, here we go. Let's have a little route through. So yeah, we've had that chat about that one. Anyone else got more Slot comments? Put them in for me, please. 4,500 people watching now. So yeah, I'm not getting nervous or anything, but I really appreciate you all being involved. Please put a like on if you can. Put a comment in. Try and get involved. That's what it's all about, and it helps us to make the content as interesting for you guys as we can. Thank you very much so long. So now we'll move on to Bryan Mbeumo. Colin, I really like him, and the reason I really like him is because when he plays against us, I absolutely hate him, and that normally means it's because they're a really good player. And I felt this with like Darwin Núñez. I remember like Benfica weren't going to be a thing, but every time he got the ball, I thought, oh, God, and that normally means there's a player in there. Bryan Mbeumo, what's your opinions on the links that have been reported that by L'Equipe, by the way, the French news publication, of around 50 million euros? I think the fee's probably just sort of paper talk, to be honest. Yeah. But what are your thoughts about him as a player? Would you be keen on him?
I really would. I really like him. I mean, the argument that we have seen in the chat and that others have brought up is the goals return this most recent year. He had one very large injury, which kept him out for a lot of the season. And that Brentford team was abysmal going forward for the majority of the year. So that, to me, that is not something that I'm deeply concerned about. I think that he plays so well coming in off that side in those little like half spaces, and creating things from there. And which is something that Arne Slot's team, when you look at, their wingers often will come inside rather than just try to beat people to the byline.
Yeah.
I think he's got the pace to stretch teams, to really space them out, but he does like to receive coming inside. And I think that is something that Arne Slot would really love to have. And just honestly, that kind of option on top of Mo would be awesome. I would, and it fits, it fits in terms of, I was shocked. I didn't know how old he was, if I'm being totally honest. I thought he was much closer to 30. So I'm very happy.
Yeah, I suffered from the same situation as well. I honestly thought he was like a 28, 29-year-old player. Turns out he's younger than Trent, everyone. He's 24. And it's amazing what a beard and no hair can do to a certain person in aging them best part of 10 years. So talking of beards, Stu, your opinion on Bryan Mbeumo, are you convinced by his beard? And are you convinced by him as a player coming to Liverpool? Do you think he could offer something that we don't already have within the club?
Well, firstly, I'm actually 21. So, to be honest, when I first heard the links, I was not overly enthused. I was on the other side of it. Not to say that he's not a decent player. I don't know. I just didn't really know enough about him.
Yeah,
really. Or he's not something I really paid too much attention to until I just did a little bit of digging and had a look at some of his stats for the last couple of seasons. So last season, played every single league game. 9 goals, 8 assists. Fairly decent return for Brentford side.
Yeah.
But this season, obviously, as Colin mentioned, he got the injury. So he only played 25 league games, but he still scored 9 league goals and still got 6 assists.
It's
so
good
he was
numbers.
forced to beat last season. And when you compare him in like sort of the various metrics to the likes of, say, Saka, Salah, and Bowen, who I'd say are probably the more natural players for that side in the league, he's well up there statistically and competing very, very well against those sort of players. So, again, this could be, if true, another one of those Michael Edwards finds that just ignites the club again and could provide the best cover for Salah. And then when Salah does eventually move on, he takes that slot. So,
yeah, and it does. I mean, this is the difficulty, isn't it? He's a left-footed right winger. He's 24 years of age. He's had 3 very good seasons at a Brentford team. Who Brentford started like a steam train. They played really well in that first season with Ivan Toney, and he came in, and the two of them were an absolute menace. Mbuemo and Toney, it was your cannonball. It was your Barry to Paul Chuckle on the fact that the two of them were. He was the selfless one. He was the one who was doing the running. He was doing all the legwork. He was doing the hard stuff. And Ivan Toney was sort of the one who was on the end of it. And a player like him, and someone's just in the chat was when I mentioned he gave me sort of a Sadio Mane style vibe. Is that the reason I say that is that he's a player who's direct, he's driven. His numbers are really good in a very poor team this season. So I'm sure everyone could admit that we don't watch Brentford week in, week out. But the footballer that I have seen from Brentford, unfortunately, for numerous reasons, they've been really poor this season. They've not done very well at all. And as you rightfully mentioned, if he's got 9 goals and was it 8 assists, did you say?
Yep.
9 goals and 8 assists. Those are fantastic numbers in a very poor team. Now, add that player to a team who is more dominant, is in more possession, is capable of spending less time with the ball at the other end of the pitch and more at the end where you want it to be. A player like Bryan Mbeumo, his numbers would only go up, surely. I mean, anyone in the chat want to tell me I'd be wrong that a player who can put those numbers up in our team would do better. Carl, have you got anything you want to add to that one about the numbers? Do you think that he would be a player who would be able to kick on? Are you thinking he'd be somebody who can't replace Salah because Salah is replaceable? But do you think he'd be able to, with the new system coming in, do you think he would be able to replicate at least part of him?
Yeah, I've actually just been looking at FBref, and his numbers, his like underlying stats are really good. So I'm looking at, firstly, they have him, against attacking midfielders and wingers. The non-penalty goals, 69th percentile, non-penalty XG, 86th percentile, assists, 79th, non-penalty XG plus expected assisted goals, 86th percentile. So those are all well above the average for attacking midfielders and wingers. If you compare him directly to forwards, so non-penalty goals, non-penalty XG, and shots total are below average, but he is way, way above average in assists, NPXG, and or his shot creating actions, 90th percentile. His passing stats are, passes attempted 95th, progressive passes 93rd, progressive carries 93rd, progressive passes received 93rd. So to your point about, maybe I can understand why people would say, oh, well, it's Kudus, so well, it should be Bakayoko. Those guys are very physically flashy, and they've got that sort of electricity to them. But the stats, to me, seem to back up the idea that this might be something that a stats and data-driven recruiting team, which we know that we have now, might favor, for if we could talk them down to 40, might favor that move, in a much higher regard than something like, Bakayoko, if his underlying stats are not as good.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And I think that, again, I mean, I've only briefly looked at the stats, and I'm glad that those stats have actually sort of backed up my, my opinion of my eye kind of thing of what I know about him as a player, that he is, and what you just told me, he's the somebody whose job it is to be the person who's getting the assist. He's the person who's playing the key passes. He's the person who's making the things happen and feeding a player who likes to have chances, of which one we have. In Darwin Núñez, we have a person who we need to feed. If we feed him more chances close to the, in high XG situations, if we believe that Darwin Núñez can improve like Santiago Jimenez did at Feyenoord under Arne Slot, if Arne Slot can replicate what he did with Núñez, with what he did with Jimenez went from a player who could score 1 in 4 in the Mexican league. And then when he came and worked under Arne Slot, he took his time. They worked on his running style. They worked on a few other bits and pieces, and he worked on the mental side of his game. And he went from a player who scored 1 in 4 games to a player who scored 1 in 2. So if he's able to do that with a player of, in respect to him, Santiago Jimenez's ability, a player of Darwin Núñez's ability, if we can replicate even, half of that, we're onto something that could work really, really well. And a player like Mbuemo would be a really useful player who it doesn't have to be all about him. Something I want to just put into, because we've got a number of chats here I want to put in about the Mbuemo situation, and the opinions are very mixed, to be honest. And that sounds about right, because I mean that's the way it needs to be. Sometimes, he's not a player who stands out as being the most, lively, as you've rightfully said about Bakayoko and Kudus, who are a little bit more electric, a little bit more pleasing on the eye, and a little bit more sort of, I don't know, it stands out perhaps. So, Paul, I'm not excited about Mbuemo. Too short and useless in the air. Isn't he like 5'5"? I don't think he's quite 5'5".
5'7".
His aerials won. His aerials won percentage against when you compare it to attacking midfielders and wingers is the 84th percentile.
So, in fact, actually, Paul, he's incredible. He could play in the NBA. So you're talking nonsense.
Versus forwards, it's a little less. But again, then you're comparing center forwards who are often going to be 6'3", 6'4". So.
Exactly. And when was the last time we saw Salah win a header ever? I think he scored a header the last game. 4 years. Yeah. Right, Red Scout TTV. Thanks for your comment. I'd rather Desire Doué, 18 left and right wing. Can't say I know much about him. Seems very young, though. Very young for a player to be, somebody going to hang your hat on a little bit early. I think the players that Liverpool might be looking to buy now might be just before they're about to explode, this 23, 24 age. Yeah. That's where I think we're looking at buying, or at least I hope we are. We like to buy the young superstars and stuff for the future, but I think if we want to be competitive next season, we're going to need players who don't need to do a lot of learning. They just need to do a lot of playing.
Players who are experienced, but not overly experienced, so to speak. Yeah,
exactly. Perfect. Yeah, players who are just about, they've done their apprenticeship, shall we say, somewhere else, and they're now ready to go and spend the best years of their career, hopefully, with us. So, yeah, that's where I think we are. Paul's come back out there, said, seems like a big downgrade from Bakayoko talent-wise. I don't know. It's one of those. It's difficult, isn't it? I don't know. Bakayoko, 21 years of age, done really well in the Eredivisie. But the problem is there's been very few players who've come from the Dutch league and come to the Premier League in recent history who've been able to replicate even close to the numbers they've been able to put up here in the Premier League. And that includes Cody Gakpo, I'm afraid. And that is my biggest concern. He's 3 years younger. Still got quite a bit of learning to do. So, I don't know. I mean, I'm not against Bakayoko. I'd be more than happy. But I'm a little bit more comfortable at the moment bringing players in who are ready. And what has Mbuemo said? So far, the comments were that this is through a queep, and whether this is from his agent, whether it's something that's gone through to a reporter to kind of get things moving, as we'll come at this time, is that he's mentioned that he feels ready to make the step up to a club playing in the biggest leagues. and that would lend itself to someone like Liverpool. And ultimately, if a club like Liverpool came knocking, I'm absolutely certain he'd be doing everything he can to make that situation happen. So we'll work on this one. We have a super chat, Elks70. Thank you very, very much for your $5. That is really, really generous for yourself. What's up, guys? Newest LSC fan for the USA. Excited about the slot machine's first presser. Yes, we are as well. Hoping to go to LSC versus Man U in South Carolina. Love the info on X. Thank you very, very much for that. Thank you for following us on there, and I appreciate you being involved. Always come in the chat whenever you can. Thank you so much. Yeah, we're all very excited about his first press conference. It sets your table out. I think it's that table setter, doesn't it? They come in and they say, right, this is who I am, this is what I'm about. And many managers can almost they get a lot of people on side, and it's important to get it right. It really is important to say the right things, get the right things done in the right places. So I am very much looking forward to it. And I'll be watching that game in South Carolina. However, I'll be watching it from my bedroom, whatever time, ungodly hour of the morning that it is, something that I'm not so used to, unlike
you will be much more comfortable sitting in your bedroom than anyone will be sitting in that stadium. I got to tell you, South Carolina in August is, you better pack your sunscreen and your bug spray. It is going to be a little uncomfortable.
Oh dear! And there you go. So that's South Carolina's atmosphere and stadium. When Colin approves of the area for you, make sure we're full of chat here for you. Right, okie dokie. So we've done quite quickly on that one, to be honest. We'll have a little look through there. So yeah, the next point of conversation which I wanted to talk about, which was, I don't know if anybody else has seen it in the chat. Get involved if you have, and your opinions, please throw them in. Sepp Berg has had an exclusive interview with the Telegraph, and they have sat down and had a chat with all very, very nicely set out and set up. Is that he has made comments that he is not impressed at the price tag that Liverpool has set for him at around 20 million euros asking price. And he has basically asked, he wants to go, and it could be linked to the 5 million euro option to buy, which was put in for Mainz. But he's done really, really well this season, and the club's basically said, yeah, not 5 million euros. I'm afraid it's just not happening. Stu, Sepp Berg, he's came in, would you believe, 4 years ago, almost to the day. Mm-hmm. He's been around for a very long time. However, has only played a couple of games. He has made these comments very, very, very early, before pre-seasons even happened. What do you make of this situation? What would do you think this is all set out? This is something he's wanted to do, or do you think he's just been young and a bit daft and spoken a little bit too freely?
I think it's a little bit petulant, to be fair. Clearly he was a move. I don't think there's any doubt about that now. Obviously the club put in that clause when he went on loan to Mainz. But as you say, he's had absolutely fantastic season there. His valuation's gone up, and the club have the right to say, no, that he's a football player. He understands how transfers work. I'm pretty certain that they'll come to some sort of agreement to sell him for the right price. It may not be 20. It wouldn't surprise me if it was something more like 15, to be fair. But I just don't like the way he's gone about it. It's very unprofessional. Making it very public like that, it's not the right way to do it. It doesn't really endear him to the fans. Him having little teddies out the cart saying, like, he felt he was almost promised he was going to get like more starting games for us. I'm like, no, you're only 17, 18 at the time. That's not going to happen. You went out on loan to get that experience, so you could build up that, like, sort of that metal and also the technical experience to play in that position when he went to Preston, and then that's why he went to Mainz as well. It's just very odd. I just don't like the way he's gone about it. It's not good.
No, it's disappointing. I'm really disappointed because I honestly felt like for every young player in this club, and there's a few comments in here I can see about Fabio Carvalho. I'm going to get through to the comments with everyone. There's a lot of people in the chat, so just bear with me. I'm a one-man band who's working on this one at the moment, so I'll try and get through as many of them as I can. Yeah, I would have thought that all of these young lads finishing loans, perhaps maybe weren't favoured by Jurgen Klopp and the coaching team that were there at the time. Perhaps something's happened, things that have gone on. These things happen in workplaces. A change of management is literally a full clean slate. It's the perfect opportunity for the clubs to be able to, the player and the club and the managers to be able to kind of have a reset and work out where we go from there. The fact that he's not waited till pre-season's quite, I can't get my head around it, to be honest. I don't really understand as to why you wouldn't, if you back yourself, if you trust yourself and go, do you know what? I'm good enough to be at this club. I'm good enough for being at one of the best clubs in the world. He's not trying to force a move out of, some mid-table club somewhere or whatever. He's trying to force a move out of Liverpool. And that to me is crazy, because if he backs himself to be the player he thinks he is, it's quite contradictory, isn't it? 20 million euros in today's market. It's not really a lot of money. It's 17 million pounds. It's for a centre-back of his experience. He's had a lot of minutes as a footballer. He's played brilliantly this year in the Bundesliga. 20 million euros asking price, by the way. We're not saying that's it, that's set. If someone comes in with 17 million euros or 15 million euros and some form of clause somewhere, then he's probably on his way out. The only thing I can think of is he's maybe was within the belief, or maybe in the conversation came that the option was basically going to be mandatory. Like if they offered the 5 million, he gets to go. And unfortunately for you, Sepp, you've played so well that 5 million euros isn't going to be enough. And unfortunately for him, Mainz's record transfer fee is 8 million euros for a fella out of Real Mallorca or someone like that. So unfortunately, they can't afford him. So pack your bags, mate, because you're coming back. And I sound awful in saying that, but that's the reality of football. Colin, your opinions on Sepp van den Berg in this situation? What can you cast some light on what you think his thought process is on doing this?
Yeah, it's a real like, kick in the teeth to me. Someone who has been like, yes, we need to give him a shot, and I've been on that for a while now, and to have him. Yeah, I mean, Stu's really right. The manner in which you go about that kind of business when you decide to say things like that matters, and it matters to supporters of the club that you're not. We clearly saw something in him in order to purchase his contract out and bring him in when he was 17. Like, we saw that there could be something there. I don't think it is out of the realm of possibility or out of the realm of what his expectations should have been, that like it was going to be a lot of loans. It was going to be a lot of learning. It, like, just thinking that you were ready at 17, 18 or 19 to just like take Liverpool first team minutes is like pretty big headed of him. And frankly, like we all saw him play, like when he was in preseason and when he was 17, 18, he was dreadful.
He was awful.
He was really, really out of his depth at that time. And there are like massive strides in his skill level. I think, from then to now, I think can go on to have like a really great career. It would not surprise me if at 26 he is like, a mainstay in the Dutch national team, someone who has found his club wherever that might be, and like plays every minute of every game every season, and is numbers wise very, very good defensively. Like, that would not surprise me at all. To kind of go about trying to push a move this way. Also, it's like, I don't know, like, you don't think you're worth 20 million? Like, you think you're good enough?
What is that?
You think you're good enough to have been in Liverpool's team at 17, but also you don't think that 20 million is what we should be asking teams to pay for you. Like, these are,
you can't have it both ways.
I don't understand. I genuinely, like, I don't know who is advising him. I don't know what what agency is backing that decision.
I'm
I
going
think
to find out for you. I'm going to
I
find
think it
out.
to be very poor. Whoever it is, whoever that decision was, I would suggest probably going to find a new agency.
Yeah, and that's my point. It's just very contradictory because we've all been sat in our chat and we've been talking away to each other, and we've been quite excited about the idea of these young lads coming back. And we've all saw how well Sepp van den Berg did with Mainz, and his numbers look really, really good. And I've not watched a lot of them. I'm not going to sit here and lie and say I've been following our loanies because I haven't. But I then watched his highlight reel, and if any of you do want to watch it, go and have a look on YouTube for it. What I can tell you is, I don't really think he's that good for what we play like, if that makes sense for everyone. I don't think he looks like a player who's ever going to be comfortable on the ball. I think he absolutely will have a career in football playing for a team where your centre-backs being ball-playing players matters. Like, there'll be clubs out there where they just need a lad who's really good at clearing it, who's really good at just, getting the ball away and then passing it to somebody else who's better than he is. However, for a club like Liverpool, we need players who are all good on the ball. Everyone can play football. Everyone's capable of, doing things beyond sort of traditionally what their position is for. His player agent is Key United, and I just want to know who else advises him, just so we need to make sure that we keep away from them as well. Lots of Dutch lads. They don't look like. I've not heard of any of these players, by the way. His agency is a agency whose biggest player is Jerdy Shooten, who plays for BSV. 28 million euros as a value. So
Yikes.
his agency is not a big agency. It's one that covers.
I would advise him to be moving agency.
Yeah, and the reason why we're all commenting on that, and for those who I'm not teaching to suck eggs, but maybe they don't understand, that interview was not arranged by him. That was arranged by his agent. His agent has gone on the phone to Telegraph and said, "Oh, here, my lad wants to say X, Y, and Z. Here's an exclusive interview." And they've jumped at the chance. He's just not executed it in an excellent way, in my opinion. I've been a bit disappointed. Really appreciate everyone's comments in there. Loads of comments for me tonight for me to go through. Some kind of a little route through them. I've starred about 21 of them, so give me a chance. Right, okie doke. Let's get rid of that one. Okie dokie. Easty Beastie, great name. I can't understand Sepp. If you think you're good enough, at least go through the preseason. Absolutely. Yeah. Absolutely. If he doesn't want to be at the club, have a boss preseason, and guess what? You'll go and get a move. The club, every other club knows that we're looking to sell you. You have made it clear that you probably don't want to be here, or you don't feel that you're good enough to be here, which is odd. I don't understand that as a player. I'd have thought that you'd have said, well, if Kwanzaa can do it, well, I reckon I'm as good as him. That's sort of the attitude that professional players normally have. Tanya Connor, thank you very much for your comments. Sepp van den Berg, sell, no brainer. He has an ego. Yeah, I mean, it can come across that way. It's certainly not well advised, to be totally honest with you. A FIFA Glion. You'll have to tell me what that means. Unprofessional, yes, but I can see where he's coming from. Yeah, I can, but there's ways of doing things. And I just don't think he's done that the right way.
I just what's the worst thing that could happen if he goes through preseason? He's okay. So then he refuses to sign a new contract. He's only got one more year. So he that we as a club with who is running the transfers, we would be desperate to get some amount of money for him.
Yeah.
There's no way that we send him out on loan for a year and then let him go for free. That wouldn't make any sense. No. So what? I don't understand why trying to force a move before you would go through camp. How does that benefit him in any way? I don't get
it. The only thing I can think of is that he sort of set his mind on that he was staying at Mainz. That's the only thing I can think of, because they're a club who don't have a large budget to purchase players, and they had an option of 5 million euros, of which the club has decided they're not going to do. Stu, do you think that it's just that? Do you think it's because he wants to stay where he is? He's set himself up. He's got friends there. He's got a home there. He's, he gets on with the team. He likes that he's played really well there. Do you think it's just be that now that 5 million euros isn't going to be, isn't going to be honoured, but it wasn't really, it was just an option. It wasn't something which was set in stone. Do you think it might just be that? Do you think it's as deep as that he knows the club can't afford to pay more, so he's just trying to twist some arms?
Maybe it could be a case of somebody at Mainz has said something to him, maybe promised something that couldn't have been promised or shouldn't have been promised, and he's kind of got it in his head that it's all been sorted anyway, and got the wrong end of the stick of the whole thing, possibly. It's just overall, it's just a weird way to go about trying to sort your own future out.
Yeah,
there's ways and means of doing things, and this certainly isn't the way to do it.
That's a good point, I think, still. I hadn't considered that. Maybe he is upset because he feels like Mainz said that they were going to honor the deal and they were going to pay that, and the Liverpool were like, yeah, well, we think we think he's worth this much, and we would like to try to get that, and maybe that fell apart, and that's made him upset, so he's gone and said, get me an interview. That's a good point.
It is. We're all guessing, but it makes sense, doesn't it? Because there's no such thing as coincidence. This has happened for a reason, and it has to be some form of gamesmanship going on here somewhere between two parties who are trying to, force a bit of leverage somewhere. Paul, I agree with Sepp. He will never overtake Kwanzaa. That's the spirit, Paul. So we should facilitate a move. 12 to 15 million is more than reasonable. Yeah, I agree on the price, but I just don't agree with the idea to say that you can overtake Kwanzaa. I mean, why not? He's going to be an international level player. He's got a lot of experience. I don't know. I just thought that he would maybe have backed himself a little bit more, perhaps, in this pre-season. He's got a Dutch manager. If anything's going to endear you to a certain one is your own countryman being in charge. It does help build a little bit of a relationship, and he'll always have a bit of a soft spot for trying to get a young Dutch lad, to do well and to grow the next, sort of, Dutch player. Yeah. That's important to these to coaches and managers. Well, at least I think it would be. Right, okie. So going through here, I'm going to come back because there's a few little, XD pieces put in there. Just finish off the Sepp conversation. I agree with them starting at 20 million. They should maximize their value, plain simple. We have to. If you don't want to be on the team, then beat feet, and then the best of luck for you in your career. Yeah, no, I agree. You've got to set your table out and say this is where we're at, because you just don't want to be coming across as a club who can have the mick taken out of them, I suppose. It just got to be someone who has to say, this is the price that we think. Come and have a conversation with us and come to the table. And if it means that Mainz can't afford him, I think that's unfortunate, of course. But, loan players, you don't fall in love with loan players. I did with Nicholas and Elka, and look where it got me. These are the things that can happen to you. So it's sort of about, we're a business. Liverpool's a club that sells to buy. It has to fund itself, and getting the best possible fees for the players that we have, then that's just the club's prerogative, and that's something that they're going to have to get on with and get on with doing. I think we've got one more or two more comments to set. We'll definitely get minutes with Konate's injury record. Shakim, I'm not so sure about that, to be honest, because I actually have the belief that we've got Konate, Kwanzaa, Joe Gomez, then it would be Sepp Vandenberg. A lot of problems are going to have to happen in our defence for Sepp Vandenberg to probably play any minutes for this club in any meaningful game other than perhaps a League Cup game against someone who's in League Two. I just don't really see him where he is going to get the opportunity unless he comes in on pre-season and goes, wow, where's this lad come from? Look how incredible he's been. But that's on him. That's going to be on him. Look, this club offers these opportunities to players. And if you don't think, if he doesn't believe that, then we don't know what to tell you. Connor Bradley's come in there, first team player, can't get him out of the squad. Kwanzaa arguably is now the second choice centre back in the club, behind Virgil van Dijk. And in many people's eyes, probably including mine, I'd be more than happy to have him because I know that he has such availability. He's someone I know who can build a relationship with Virgil van Dijk, and as a centre back partnership, that's what's important. And unfortunately, Konate, plays 5 or 6 games and then he's out for 3 or 4. And that is where my issue comes from with him. So, right. He played well in Mainz. Maybe he can go into a bigger club. Exactly. I mean, why would he not want to go and do that? Why would he not want to go and play for a team who isn't fighting for relegation and is perhaps looking to go for European places somewhere in the world? All really good conversations. Right, okay, I'll just go back to a few other bits and pieces. John Somers, hi guys. Thoughts on Thuram being linked with us again, available for 13 million euros. Cole, Thuram, a well-known YouTuber, announced this chap, and he must have been wondering where he was. What do you think of Khephren Thuram? Do you think that he'd be able to be a player who could come and do something for us at a much reduced fee than he would have been last season?
For that amount of money, I've been on stream where I can be quoted as saying, for if that's going to be the amount of money that they're going to ask, then business wise, it's worth the risk. Like that's pennies for any big club, maybe except Barcelona. Everybody else got that cash just sitting around. I don't understand why for that amount of money they would not just sell to Jim Radcliffe's other club, Manchester United, who need a midfielder desperately. Like they desperately need midfielders. And for that amount of money, like why would you, like they're not stopping City from doing these sorts of things. So like they're not going to stop you, presumably. I just, for that amount of money, it just is like, I think it's good business for whoever is purchasing him. Whoever can buy that amount of talent for that little money, good business. I think that's a good decision. But I don't know why it would be us and it wouldn't be United or, frankly, a lot of other people.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, at that price, why not? 13 million pounds. It's pocket change in today's market now, isn't it? I mean, why not? Stu, Khephren Thuram, are you looking forward to it? Here we go when we sign him.
I bloody hate that saying. Bloody Romano.
Ruined transfers, that man.
Oh, Jesus. And just. To be honest, I can't disagree with what Cole said. At the end of the day, at that price, just get him in. And, hey, if he plays Zob or one of the other players out of that central midfield spot, then so be it. He's proven himself. And again, he's got the stats to back it up as well. So to get him in for that price, yeah, I mean, I say go for it. What's the worst that can happen at the end of the day? So,
yeah. I mean, what is the worst that could happen? And as Cole says, he's owned by the Ineos group. So Manchester United look like they could do with some decent players, unbelievably, and somehow Khephren Thuram hasn't already been announced for them, because you would have thought that would have made perfect sense, especially at the price tag that has been made. So that is a bit of a concern for me, to be totally honest with you. That would be the concern that I would have around him coming in. And it's a shame, because last season I was quite excited about the prospect of having a player from what I'd seen. I thought he had a lot of talent. I thought he showed a lot of possibilities. And, in the end, those situations didn't occur. And there was a few conversations around, cost and money and deals that were to be put in and around there. Another one, Paul Goulding, thank you very much. Always in the chat. Appreciate your comments as always. Do you guys reckon Carvalho will get a chance, or will he go elsewhere? I'll jump straight in on Carl, because he's really interested in this one. What do you reckon, Fabio Carvalho? Staying, going, loan, sell? What's happening?
I think he absolutely will get a look in preseason. I think this is a player that Arne Slot, I was speaking about Bryan Mbeumo and how he likes to go from outside to inside and kind of link those middle spaces. This is Fabio Carvalho's game. Like, that is his trick. And I think that, as well, we spoke a lot about, I think, bad business decisions. I think whoever his representative was when he was making some comments about, I think about the move to Leipzig and how that was kind of not working, and he made some like why'd you say that, kid? Sort of comments. I think the way that he's handled himself since then has been much better. So I'm assuming someone was like, hey, like, just shut up. Just like don't say that in front of other people. Like, you can believe that, but just don't talk about it. When you're like on record with media, like, it's fine. And so I absolutely think he'll get a shot. Another person who, if he doesn't, but he plays, if he's not going to be included, but still plays really well, he's put in a lot of good work the last 6 to 8 months. He will be available for especially lower half Premier League teams to purchase, and will do really well for them, I think. So he has a vested interest, I think, in doing well in preseason.
100%. And I remember furiously refreshing Twitter in the January transfer window prior to his signing. I believe it was in the 22 season. I was very much like, God, yeah, we need a lad like this. Like this is, he's got the ability. He's got something that we don't have. Plays in that 10, and he's capable of scoring goals, and he's able to be assisting. And he's, when he works with a number 9 in Mitrovic or someone like that, I could see it all working really well. And then he obviously came into the club, and he started relatively okay-ish for a young lad. He got himself a really important goal against Newcastle. I still believe the latest ever goal Liverpool has scored in a match. Within 90 minutes, and it was a cracking goal. And then it just sort of, I don't know, maybe that season when we all look back, sometimes it's hard lines for you, isn't it? I suppose is that you just can't carry a passenger, and we weren't good enough to be carrying passengers. In that season, we were horrific, and we just needed. He didn't get his chances. And I remember probably you guys at home, or you guys, obviously yourselves, might have been going, "Why is Carvalho not playing? Why is he not getting a game? Why is he not being put in?" And it could have just been a case of, I don't know you, I can't trust you, and everything's going really, really badly. So I just need the people who I know I can trust and who have been there and done it before to be out on that pitch. And it could just be a case like Stu, Fabio Carvalho, are you excited for the second coming?
Actually, no, I think you raised a really, really good point there, that he actually had. I've just been looking at his stats because I can't answer refresh, like, so I couldn't quite remember.
We've slept since.
Yeah. Okay, so he played in the 2022-2023 season where it was just horrendous for us. He did play 13 games and only scored 2 goals, which obviously he was with us for that entire season as well. And that was a tough season for any new player coming in. But when you got a new young player who's got the talent, but obviously needs a bit of time to settle in, a bit more coaching, and when you're starting the season horribly, you haven't got that time to dedicate. And I think that may have impacted on him a little bit. I'm glad to see that he did really well at Hull. I mean, was that 9 goals in 20 matches? So not bad for a half season's work.
Not bad at all.
Yeah, let's watch this space. I would not be surprised if he did get a full season loan, perhaps with another Premier League club who are looking to sort of fill a spot, like one of the newly promoted clubs, possibly, where he could get a good first full season, hopefully. Because I don't think he's quite there to get that at Liverpool at the moment. But I think that is probably the best option for him. But hey, who knows? Slot may have different plans for him.
Absolutely. I mean, he's clearly incredibly talented. I mean, the numbers he put up at Fulham at such a young age were fantastic. They were really, really, really good. And he scored against City, if anyone remembers, in an FA Cup game. I think it was when we'd already pre-agreed the deal. I think we'd already pre-agreed our signing, but it wasn't done yet. And he scored against City, and I thought, you'll do for me, lads. That's what it's all about. I'll have someone who can come and do a bit of that for me. And John Summers commenting, Jurgen wouldn't have his attitude. Look what he did to Sacco. No big egos allowed. You're absolutely right. And I don't know. I'm with Col on this one. He's a young kid. He really, really was. And sometimes these young bucks just need a little bit of correction, don't they? And they just need a bit of pardon me, everyone, a reality check that you've not made it yet, son. You've only just started the journey, and perhaps some people get the opinion that they thought that they'd already made it because they were at Liverpool, for example. And I echo what Cole says, is that I'm actually really impressed with the way that he's applied himself from January. The RB Leipzig situation just didn't work. Whether it was, I don't know whether it was in the right place for him to go, to be totally honest with you.
His,
It didn't
his
really
spot
make a
got
lot of
stolen
sense.
by Xavi Simon. Like
Yeah.
he was there for like 3 weeks and
Yeah.
had played well, and then literally they brought him in and didn't see another game.
Exactly, and why would he? It's not, and it's just unfortunate for him. But the club did the right thing. If the club didn't care about him, by the way, everyone, they'd have left him there. They'd have just said, "No, it's fine." He's not our problem. Why should we go and find him? Or if they didn't care about him as a player, which they do, they went out there and sent him to Hull, where Tyler Morton is currently now. We've got a very good relationship with Hull, and he's played brilliantly. He's been really, really well, and I'm really excited to see him in pre-season. He's one of the players I'm very much looking forward to seeing how he is brought into the team, where he's played. He is a true number 10. If we are going to play 4-2-3-1, that's a position where we need players who are capable of doing that. He would be one of them. Harvey Elliott being another one. 2 young players. You'll need rotation. There's a lot of football games to be played next season. A lot of football to be played across almost the world, pretty much. Extra Champions League games, and a player like Fabio Carvalho and the talent that he has makes perfect sense. Great comments, everyone, about that one. And good chat on that one. Right, a few more I've put in there. The second coming, yeah, now. What am I like? This is good from John as well. Actually, would like to put this out to us. So, would like to send my best wishes to Kevin Campbell as I hear he is ill. Yes, from everyone as us at the channel as well. Absolutely, we've heard the sad news that he's currently quite seriously unwell in hospital at the moment with kidney failure. So, obviously, from us here at the LSE Transfer Room, our best wishes go out to him and his family, of course, in this very difficult time. Great comment. Thank you very much for that. Go back to a little bit of Mbuemo. A few little comments have been put on there. I'm just trying to get through them. Lewis Rummans. Mbuemo is a very clinical player, especially in the 6-yard box. I'd like to think he would be from that distance. I think it'd be an exciting addition. That's the conversation we want to hear. That's what we want. We want him to be a player who is, an exciting one to have. Next up, can you see us going for the pair, Tony and Mbuemo? No, is my answer to that one, to be totally honest with you. I will be as bold as Arne Slot if we do sign both. To be totally honest with you, I'll shave it live on stream for you for any charity, because that's not happening. Shaquem Ali, Elise makes the most sense. Kudus is the one. Not surprised with the Mbuemo link. Now, a quick comment on this one before we kind of wrap things up to come up to the hour. The difference is those 2 lads are going to cost the absolute earth, aren't they? They will cost an arm and a leg. Kudus has had 1 season. By the way, has scored less goals than Mbuemo, by the way. Just to throw it out there, he scored less. Assisted less as well. And Elise, we need to get away from the fact that his injuries concern me. Incredibly talented, exceptionally talented footballer, but I don't need another Diogo Jota in this football club. I'm sorry, I love you, Diogo, but there's only room for one. There's only room in this club for one person who's incredibly talented, but then injured most of the time. Colin, either of these lads, with the Mbuemo, not comparing the 2 in the situations because they both have pluses and negatives, do you see either of them as a clear and obvious get that man instead?
No. Although it's not because they're not talented enough, or it's not because they wouldn't be good enough. Those guys, I love. In fact, I love all 3. I think they're all like really great footballers.
Yeah.
50 million pound to Brentford is a lot more meaningful to them than it is to 50 million to West Ham is.
Yeah, West Ham's just a money laundering scheme, isn't it? Really, now that's all it is. They're buying players and looking to sell them on for double the amount. I think that's their deal.
Correct. It just is like that 50 million would be something that Brentford would be in need of more than those other two teams. And so, like for the amount that it would cost to get them, I just think that you can get Mbuemo out of there for, probably 30, 40 million pound. Maybe more like 35, 40, 45 around there. But I don't think you're getting Kudus out. You're not getting Kudus out of West Ham for under 80 unless I don't know why there would be a 60 million pound release clause. If there is, that seems like pretty good business. But
the only thing that would get Kudus out of West Ham, and this is just big brain in it, is because of the situation with Paquetá, that if the belief is that he gets banned, and by the way, his ban could be monumental, it could be enormous. If he's found guilty, it's not going to be Tonali numbers. It won't be a 12-month ban. It could be years and years, because he's betting on himself doing an action which brings the game into disrepute. It's incredibly serious, which they were sort of banking on the idea that it was £100 million coming from Man City this summer, and they wouldn't have to sell. And what they're now faced with is a player who they'll have to pay his wages unless they cancel his contract. I don't know enough about that to work out whether they could even do that. But Tonali was banned for 12 months. They paid his wages. So with West Ham, there's a potential they may have to do the same. They're going to have to swallow that and lose any value they had in Paquetá as a resale. And then also the fact is that they'll have amortization of his fee when they bought him, of which they'll be able to do nothing about. So it could well be that Kudus could be available at a cheaper price just because they're in a point where their hands are tied and they have to sell. Because money. Yeah, basically, they're going to have to go down to cash converters and stick a player in there because unfortunately money's tight and they've got nothing else that they can sell. So they're now going to go and sell the washing machine. These are all possibilities. I don't know. I'm not a financial expert. Right, just the last couple of live chats and then we'll wrap everything up. I've really enjoyed the stream tonight, everyone. Nearly 10,000 views, which is brilliant, which is absolutely fantastic, and we're glad that you're joining us. Faisal Arsene, when Arne Slot pre-season at LFC starts July 1st with the young lads. And then it'll be staggered with people from the Olympics, people from the Euros and Copa America and just all over the world. They're coming from far and wide, and they'll join at certain points depending on where they end up in competitions. They'll probably have a holiday, and then it'll be straight into pre-season. Let's have a look here. Liverpool made the mistake for showing their hand bidding for Caicedo, Kudus in. Okay, I don't think he can play a 6, I'm afraid. We do have the money, and that it will be the new shout from me for the rest of it. Where is the Caicedo money? Because we know the money is there to be had. Kudus exploits the season in the last World Cup. 100% sold on Kudus. Not surprised. Very, very good player. My problem's the price. That is just it. He's an awful lot of money for a player who, unfortunately, everybody, his output doesn't match the price. If he banged in 25 goals this season and 10 assists, give me the £80 million because I'll go and pay. I'll pick him up myself. I'll go down there and pick him up and drop him off at our medical. Unfortunately, we need to get away from the idea of paying ridiculous sums of money for people who don't have a lot of output. I don't need YouTube compilations of skills. I need goals and assists. That's what win games. Just putting it out there. Maybe I'm a bit old school like that one. Elise say no, Kudus and Mbuemo. Yes, Tanya's interested. Okay, I like that. I like that opinion. Elise say, why not? Injuries. That's all it is for me. I think his price will be astronomical, and I think unfortunately his injury record.
Wait for less.
Yeah. He's I don't need a Canate or a Diogo Jota sort of situation of which they're brilliant, so you don't want to get rid of them, but you also don't need a player who's best mates with the physiotherapist. I need them best mates with the first team coach, and that's where I am. And we've had too many players who've spent too long, doing rehab videos on Instagram with Thiago and Naby Keita, and not enough time, putting it out on the pitch. And that for me is the most important. Its availability will always be the number one ability, is being available to the club and being on the pitch. He's very young, as you said, Dan, needs some guidance. Yeah, Fabio does. He really does. He needs some guidance. He needed somebody to say, don't say that. And like Carl said, he obviously got the right person who went in there and said, you see this one? Don't talk. unless I say. You don't talk and just be quiet. Just be very quiet and just carry on playing football. And then final comment before we go for the rest of the night. I appreciate everyone who's got involved. There's just so much for me to go through, so much to discuss. Uma Mania, I hope I've not butchered any name there. We need to target players from the Brazilian league, find the next Vinicius Jr. and Rodrigo. That'll be excellent. I'd absolutely love that one. And just before we wrap it up there, I've preset a conversation for maybe later in the week. Liverpool are looking, or FSG, shall we say, are looking at becoming a multi-club model, joining the other clubs in the world, Ineos, joining the Man City group and Red Bull groups, of finding clubs from other places. Colin, your opinion, and just very quickly, or however you want to put it, where in the world would you like FSG to purchase a football club? If there's no constraints to it, where would you say that's where I want us to have a second club, shall we say?
And would it? So my actual answer is I think that they should purchase two more. I think they should. I mean, they have the money. They've got the capital to do so. I think it should be a much lower league club or a much lower level of club in Europe. And I think that there then needs one in South America. So I think Brazil is a great place for one. But to me, it seems like that's a very far and a very large jump from, having an operation in Brazil or in Argentina to just having, the only other club that they own is Liverpool, and just expecting that at some point, like, you could just kind of transfer players from there and that they'll have an easy time doing that. I think that's much harder. If they're only going to buy one, I think it would be best for them to purchase something in like, in like a second division in Portugal or like Austrian club. I think it would make more sense to have something where you can still have it like a European base of operation and not have it be such a large cultural and like game speed jump from like Brazil, which can be up and down in terms of like overall quality directly to the Premier League.
Absolutely. Stu, same question to yourself. Everton's, no longer new owners, 777, have apparently put all of their clubs up for sale, and they are an example of multi-club models not working. And they own a Brazilian team called Vasco da Gama. I don't speak Portuguese, and that could be pronounced completely differently, but we'll go from there, named after a Portuguese explorer. They are owned by 777. 13th, they finished in the Brazilian league. If you were looking at a club in South America, do you think that makes sense? A bit of a distress sale there from 777 with what's going on with them. FSG are well known for coming and rescuing football clubs who are in a dire strait. We know all about that. Could you see the Brazilian league being somewhere they'd like to go from the start? Or, like you say, would you prefer us to kind of get the middleman in first before we go straight to source?
I think I agree with what Colin says. Like, so I prefer to sort of see FSG go for a European model, go for a league team from a league that's ranked like sort of between 20 and 30 in like sort of competition status, like sort of where they rank like sort of say the Premier League's the top league in the world. They're in like sort of that 20 to 30 bracket, so they're a decent sized club, but nothing major. But that being said, if Vasco da Gama are up for sale, and they are a very historic club from Brazil, they've got a lot of potential. They've had a lot of famous players come out of that club. It could be a little too good to pass up. And I'll look at the way, say, Palmeiras have set up their youth academy and look at how much money they're raking in from the likes of Endrick, Estevao, and Luis Guilherme. 3 kids from their academy all being sold for massive amounts of money. That's where their youth academies work. And if FSG could get something like that going in Brazil, they would be well onto that. They'd be all over that because they'd be making money hand over fist. So that's why I think it could be a little bit too tempting for them to pass up.
Yeah, absolutely. So yeah, it's definitely a chat for another day. I think that's a really good point. I think there is obviously a massive pile of players that are currently, you know, the next South American footballers where some of the best players on the planet are. That's where we want them to come from, don't we? So ideally, perhaps in the future, it could be that we end up with 3, like Cole says, and I think that's a really good point, is to have stepping stones as opposed to going from point A straight to point Z. There needs to be a point where we've got to go in between the middle, and a Portuguese team, an Austrian team, you know, someone in the Swiss league, you know, all these places are all, you know, could be options, and FSG are very much in the market for that. That's what they have brought. Michael Edwards in as director of football operations. There will be more clubs, there will be more interest, and we will all have a second club that we can all pay attention to eventually, as to when those players, if they do well, they could well end up being players of us in the future if things go the right way. Right, everyone. I'm going to wrap it up. We've been on over for an hour and 10 minutes, a little bit longer than normal. So I really, really appreciate everyone who's been involved. Thank you very, very much. Thank you for all your comments. I try to get through as many as I can. So until next time, give us a like, stick a comment in for us, subscribe, which is really important to us. And we will catch you tomorrow, same time, 7:45. Thanks very much, everyone. Take care. Bye-bye.